Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, where Pete's internet just went down just in time for our special episode where we're going to talk about our guys, the guys that Pete and I cannot separate ourselves from this 2022 fantasy football season that you need to be drafting for yourself. Pete should be joining us in a little bit here, but I'm going to be running the stream, scrambling around here to get this going. So let's hit the intro and get right to it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And once again, I am Chris Spags, gently awaiting your friend and mine, Pete Overzet. There's an Xfinity, outage going on in his area of the country. So we are, in fact, going to be doing it me style here. And I'm still going to talk about our guys, still did all the prep work, honestly, all the graphics that we needed for this one. So Lord knows I'm going to write it out. Let me see if I can get an overlay on here because this is not usually the way the show goes. But here we go. Am I this going to make me a normal human being now? Nope. It is impossible for me to be a normal human being, apparently, on this stream today. So you're seeing me in full view. You get to see the big screen behind me. You get to see my championship belts, my money hats, all the things I've accomplished in my life have been purchased or given to me by jobs. Either way, appreciate all you guys hanging out. Make sure you are subscribed, whether you're watching on the Splash Play channel or on Pete's channel. And of course, go make sure you subscribe to the Splash Play channel because you will find this kind of similar frenzied, harried start to his show every single day not every single day, many days a week on the Splash Play YouTube channel, starting with NFL Week 1, where the show will be exclusively hosted on the Splash Play YouTube channel moving forward. So go subscribe over there right now. Shout out to the chat, as always, dealing with me here. Pete's late. What a shock. Great save. Boy, this is it's honestly tough. A lot of pressure, too. And the weird thing with StreamYard, it's a very easy software to use for the most part. It's one that's meant to be really intuitive. So a boomer can come on, a boomer like me, maybe a boomer like you can come on and do these streams easily. But when you hop into somebody else's StreamYard, it's a whole different thing where I had to text Pete to get a login code. I had to then hop in here, figure out what his brand things look like. Very confusing for me. So a lot of stuff that's not native on here, but I am still going to get to the crux of what we're talking about today, which are Pete and my guys. And God damn it, I prepared some graphics, guys. So here we go. Let's pull it up on the screen. You can see some of the R guys we're going to have on the screen for you, with starting off T. Higgins, Jesus Christ, going to be going at the 27.3 spot on Underdog right now. Of course, all the ADPs you're going to see on the screen are in fact Underdog ADPs. And for what it's worth, these are actually guys that Pete gave to me before the show. I'm not just making it up, not just assigning guys to him. Of course, T. Higgins, we know. Pete and I have drafted him a lot on streams on the show. We're both big fans of him. A guy that you can get as sort of a leverage play off of Jamar Chase, a hedge against Jamar Chase, going a few rounds after him in a lot of the drafts out there. I've talked about as well on Underdog, certainly going in a nice spot. On DraftKings, though, a 30 ADP on there is always going to look pretty good. So T. Higgins is a guy that stands out pretty well for Pete, and he actually also stands out pretty well for another guy. That's right. I am also planning a flag for T. Higgins. Didn't even update the photo for it. Actually, I thought I did, but apparently not. Didn't update the photo for T. Higgins. Either way, he is a guy that we are both claiming as one of our guys moving forward. T. Higgins, number one on the list. Another guy to be adding to Pete's roster for himself. We might see some exposures popping up for him on the Brick Caddy when he's doing shows. See him right now, George Kittle. And this one hurts because I couldn't just pick all the same guys that Pete had when he's planning a flag for his guys in the 2022 season. No, I, in fact, had to go and do some things different. And George Kittle, if you guys watched the randomizer show with me and Pete a couple weeks ago, you might have seen, in fact, that George Kittle once sent me a Tinder screenshot, which I think is pretty much the biggest showing of love a man can provide to a blogger, a content creator at Barstool. And George Kittle, he makes Pete's list, doesn't make mine because I'm going a different direction. A guy that I think you can poke less holes with. Kyle Pitts, obviously starting to steam up a little bit. I think you might have seen on the Eric Bimeforce stream that Pete did recently, the Best Ball Breakfast, which really enjoyed watching this morning. And it was nice seeing these guys doing a pre-recorded one, so they got to do an actual pristine room. They were talking about Kyle Pitts. I think in the draft that they did, Kyle Pitts went in the second round, the middle of the second round. I believe it might have gone ahead of Mark Andrews rather. Again, I'm frazzled. Deal with me making some name flip ups right now. But Kyle Pitts is a guy that, the youth profile fits. When we talk about breakout players, Kyle Pitts certainly one of those dudes that I think has the ability to get upwardly. Whereas Travis Kelce, we've seen some of the concerns about him preseason, he's running a lot less snaps. Certainly that's a thing that goes with age. But every year since he's been, I think, 27, he's gone down in less snaps in the preseason, and then it's correlated with less snaps in the regular season. You have some concerns there. Mark Andrews, a lot of his best games last year came with Tyler Huntley. This year, Lamar Jackson back in tow and some more receiving weapons that could take some share away, including the rookie Isaiah Likely for him could be a risk. You could also poke some holes in Darren Waller, whose hamstring is hurt. He's not practicing again for the Raiders. And Kittle himself, who, again, I love, he sent me a Tinder screenshot. How could I ever speak ill of a man who sends me a Tinder screenshot? That said, Kittle is a guy who was in line blocking a lot last year. Kyle Pitts, I don't think you have any of these concerns. First 1,000-yard year for a rookie tight end in like 50 years, I think is what the stat was for that one. So Kyle Pitts to me, another guy that I'm very comfortable going with a lot. And if I'm going to differentiate from Pitt a little bit, or from Pete rather, a little bit in our list, I think Kyle Pitts is one guy I'm willing to differentiate with. Another guy, a Niner. So Pete's actually doing some correlations for himself and his our guys build. Got Trey Lance coming in with a nice ADP on himself that's come up over the last few weeks in particular, 69.7 for him. Trey Lance, a guy that we draft a lot in this show as well. And unfortunately, that means that this will be the second, and I promise the last, of the R guys that Pete and I will be sharing. But I did flip the image for you. There you go. There's backwards Trey Lance. Lay Trance popping up on my list. He's one of the guys that I'm willing to plant a flag on heavily. He is my highest exposed QB on Underdog right now. I think if DraftKings allowed you to look at your exposures, he's probably my highest exposed guy on DraftKings as well. I love him. Loved him a lot more when he was going in the 90 to 100 ADP range on Underdog. Now he's still going to the 60s, 70s. I sometimes take him in the 60 overall spot just because I want to make sure to get him if I have Deebo Samuel, if I'm taking Brandon Ayuk, if I'm getting George Kittle. I think there's a lot of upside for Trey Lance on a lot of different stacks. And for me, I think there's a chance he could be the QB1. So I'm a big Trey Lance believer, big fan of him overall. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it, man. If you guys watch the Friday streams, you know, I can run through a solo stream, keep it moving, keep it easy, keep it all that stuff. On Pete's channel, it's like, oh shit, this is a stream on Pete's channel where the namesake of his channel is currently not available. So I'm doing the best I can. And guys, smash the like button if you can too, because this is harder than it seems, especially when you thought you'd have a nice casual show with your podcast partner. Pete's number 4, though, on the list, Rachaad White. You can see he's got an ADP on the screen, out Underdog of 127.6. Guy that I also very comfortable going with. And it's weird because on this show, a lot of I think the appeal of splash play is that me and Pete go back and forth. And of course, you're seeing that classic banter right now, us sparring, throwing some jabs back and forth as I ramble on by myself here. But I love Rachaad White too. I am a big fan of his. However, I do think that despite, Rachaad White making some positive gains in training camp, I do think there's another rookie, goes a little bit cheaper, who has the upside in the same way Rachaad White does, if not more. That is, in fact, Tyler Algier. So if you are playing your Tyler Algier bingo cards for me at home, cash in now, 149.6 ADP. I think people have got to be some scared money right now about Tyler Algier because he has not risen up in the preseason like a Rachaad White has. Rachaad White started with a 4-string, ended up playing basically the 1B running back in the last preseason game. Moving forward, it seems like he's going to have a real role. Tyler Algier might not have a real role for the first few weeks of the season. Worries me a little bit that Damian Williams is getting used ahead of him. Kadri Allison is getting used ahead of him in the preseason so far. Cordero Patterson's still certainly a big weapon that I going to want to go to. That said, Tyler Algier, if we're playing for week 17, if we're playing for when there's $2 million up top on Underdog, I want to have Tyler Algier in the mix because I think there's a couple outs. Specifically, the team is good. Maybe he's the running back that actually helps them get there, helps bubble up over the course of the season. And if they're bad, they're going to give Tyler Algier some carries, see what he can do. Is it crazy for him to be a Rashad Penny at the end of the season? I don't think so. So that's why I'm willing to go his way and plant my flag once again for Tyler Algier. 2 Falcons on the list. So pray for me in my flag plants. And Pete's number 5 here to round us out before we hop to a best ball mania draft that hopefully Pete will join me along for. Got KJ Hamler. And if you guys watching the streams with Pete, you know he loves KJ Hamler. He was actually heavy on KJ Hamler before the Tim Patrick injury. Those shares only look better and only speak to what we talk about on these shows where you got to draft early, you got to draft often, and you got to be willing to take the news when guys are coming to you. KJ Hamler was a guy that people I think had some concerns with. He had that Q tag on him or that out tag on him on DraftKings for a while as well because he is recovering from an ACL injury, but he's a burner. He's a guy that can play in the slot, can also take some snaps away outside from time to time. It's a nice spot for KJ Hamler overall. So again, another take of Pete's that I support fully. That said, he's not one of my brand players. My brand player, my last flag plant here before we hop in a best ball mania draft with $10 million in prizes, $2 million up top. Number 5 for me is going to be Alec Pierce. A little bit cheaper than Hamler, an ADP of 166.6. He kind of looks like a devil child in the photo I chose for him, and I didn't realize I was connecting those dots mentally, but Alec Pierce is a dude that I think is a burner. I mean, you can look at the 40 times. He's a 4.4 guy. Actually, might have clocked a little bit faster than that in the combine. A guy that also has had some positive camp reports, running some vertical seams, getting it with the first team. Another guy that people too in the preseason were like, oh, he's not running with the first team. I can't draft him. He's running with them now, and people still aren't bumping him up enough. I love Alec Pierce. I think he's got a lot of upside. I've talked, it's easy to look at him. He's a lanky white guy. Look, make your own Cooper Kupp comparisons if you want, but he is tall. He's a good route runner. He's a guy who's got the speed. He's also a guy that should benefit from a Colts offense that I think will rise overall, and will also hopefully siphon some stuff away from Jonathan Taylor, a guy that I'm not getting a lot of in my zero RB build. So Alec Pierce, my last flag plant here. Oh, can I breathe? I'm checking the chat here. GA saying the Algier bit needs to stop. People think you're serious. I am. That is one I am serious about. Again, he's my only $1,000 player right now on Underdog. He is a guy that I firmly believe in. And I think at this point, his ADP is getting even cheaper. If you want to hedge against what you could say is a minute chance of me being right, still draft Tyler Algier now because he's getting cheaper more than ever. My guy Bullock saying Pierce David looks like a guy whose first name is Alec. I mean, yeah, it's a powerful name. To say it out loud at home. Play along with me at home. Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce with the 50-yard touchdown. Boom! Can you hear that on your Sundays on Red Zone? I think you can. Andrew Siciliano is going to be like, Alec Pierce, bet nobody had this guy in his fantasy team. And you're going to go, fuck you, Andrew Siciliano. We're a Scott Hansen household. We don't like you very much at all. Alec, don't call me Alex Pierce. Yeah, it's a tough one when you have a little bit of a verbal lilt like I do. Either way, Matthew, shout out to Matthew in the chat. Pierce is my number one exposure player. Feel the same, Spags. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it, and also appreciate all of you guys hanging out with me. And that means, you know what it is? It is, in fact, time to hop into a best ball Mania draft on Underdog Fantasy. Only going to do one today. Tomorrow on the Friday stream with just me. If you couldn't get enough of the surprise solo stream today, you get more tomorrow as I do an Underdog draft, a DraftKings draft, open up a few adult cocktails in between. And unlike Pete, who's much sharper about this lately with doing some pre-recorded shows, hopping into rooms sneakily, I'm going to give you guys a chance to play along with me on Underdog. And please use the promo code SPLASH over on Underdog to get yourself a deposit match up to $100. That is a promo code that is actually going to the show now. So don't tell anybody out there, but we're starting to build this business up, build this show up into something that hopefully is valuable for us. So please use that promo code SPLASH to get your deposit match up to $100 on Underdog. But it's time to hop in. 451,000 entrants. Looks like we're about 72% filled. So got to think it's going to fill over the next 2 weeks. But I am currently, I think, on my 122nd entry. Let's check that real fast before we hop in. I'm sure that room will fill immediately. 122 entries done. This will be lucky number 123. So if you are a fan of numerical things, you're going to get a numerical one today as we fill up this draft live on the screen. Whew, I should be able to draft on Pete's account, though. It's funny watching Pete's streams because, obviously Pete had the big win Underdog last year. Pete's numbers slowly going downwards in terms of his account balance as he's doing more big dog drafts, more gigantic Clifford the Big Red Dog drafts, whatever else they're doing on Underdog. So as those price points go up, our poor guy Pete is definitely suffering a little bit more for it. All right, we got how many badges do we got in here? We got Furiyama. Only one badge in the room, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, no, Dark too. 2 badges in the room, ladies and gentlemen. And I think Dark has sniped me on some picks recently on stream, including on our Zero RB build on Monday's show with Pete. So Dark, I'll be watching out for. A Furiyama, I'll be watching out for. Sam, of course, one of FTN's contributors, I'll be watching out for. Everybody else, I guess Moxieland, one of our regulars on Twitter too. So possibly some sharp teams in here that'll ruin my draft for me. And hopefully, again, if you guys are just tuning in now, Pete's internet's down thanks to an Xfinity outage in the New England areas. Hopefully, Pete will be on to join us soon. That's why we're drafting on my account today. That's why you are just seeing me and my beautiful face here stammering and stumbling through a stream that I wasn't prepared to talk alone for. But not getting much sleep with a certain baby in the house who shall remain nameless. So it's a tough time here in the Spags household, but we push through in the name of getting these maxed out Best Ball Mania 3 tournaments. Wow, Chase 101. I mean, look, that's a take. I definitely take Justin Jefferson more in the 101. Hard to argue Jamar Chase with what he did last year, just having that upside for sure. That said, I think if I had more comfort for my choices, if I could choose between those guys agnostically, I don't think I will take a single share of Chase at the 1 spot, whereas I definitely have a good amount of Justin Jefferson at the 1 spot, especially now that this ADP has started to come up a little bit ahead of Cooper Kupp on Underdog. You can see some of the picks coming. Moxie like the disgusting soda. I can't speak for what Moxieland is doing. there a way to check how many drafts you've added total? I don't know if there is. If there is, it's probably in your account settings, but that's one I'm actually not familiar with. And honestly, I'm surprised I haven't hit the 500 mark for one of the badges yet, because I definitely, I've gotten a good 400 or so, I think, in, or maybe closer to 350 this draft season. I feel like I should have hit it with my previous drafts, but must be a little bit shy. I'm hoping I get badged at some point just live on the show, and it'll be like being knighted by Lord Underdog. All right, we're on the clock here. Fucking wide receivers going off the board. But if you watch my streams, you know, unlike Pete, I don't give a... Well, Eckler is actually a pretty nice value here. Fuck. Oh, God damn it, a running back? I've brought shame. I'm doing these streams here, and it's normally a show I get to do with Pete. I have the cover of Pete being like, "You got to take Austin Eckler here. It's too good of a discount." And now I have to be the Pete too and go, "Oh, it's too good of a discount, Spags. You got to take him here." So there we go. Austin Eckler. As you can see, I do not have a lot of Austin Eckler. I think it was at just under 4%. So 3.3%. You can see on the brick cut as well, the target of what you should be trying to own these guys at 7%. So you can see all the things you need to know about Austin Eckler and my grievous mistakes in drafting running backs. Oh, there we go. If I had my usual gifts, FF Doom, I would admit that I'm in fact an RB pig. Yes, I'm a fish. I'm a fraud. Oh, you guys are hurtful. You guys are... Oh, look at me. I'm too scared to not draft Austin Eckler. Oh, I think Austin Eckler could be RB1 this year. He catches passes. Oh, he just needs to get a little bit more red zone work, even though they drafted some big-bodied backs, have guys like Larry Roundtree there. But yeah, Austin Eckler, we love running backs. Woo! Ugh. You guys are right. I brought shame. I honestly feel ashamed to do this. Like, I'm happy that Pete's been able to get some 0 RB drafts on his streams, including with me lately. But I'll get back on track here. A little bit of something I call Deebo Samuel. And now to be clear, I do think there are ways you can win with an anchor RB build. I'd prefer to get a running back more in the second round, third round if I could, if I'm going to go that way. But I do think this will be a case where we don't draft another running back until the 9th round. That's my goal, at least. But there's been enough studies out there, and I know our guy Dricker over at Rotoviz wrote a lot of articles about how people probably aren't taking enough running backs, how even in a build where you are taking running backs early, you probably still be getting the 5 or 6 running backs. So that's going to probably be the goal today, because I don't want to do a hyper fragile. I'm not a hyper fragile build kind of guy. I am a hyper fragile guy emotionally, as we've talked about on the show. But in this situation, I think it'll be my goal to not draft another running back until about rounds 9, 10. Honestly, 11 would be great for me. There have been times lately where I've been doing drafts where I'm just not drafting a running back till the 10th round. And boy, does it feel fucking good. Spags, my Deebo exposure is going to kill me. Yeah, I've heard this take lately, and I don't get it. And Deebo's also definitely getting drafted highly because of the casuals. I love Deebo. Like, I don't see how you can't love Deebo. I think it's a mistake that people are like not as into Deebo. From my perspective, I think Deebo is a really strong receiver play. He had such a large share of that Niners offense last year. And even if Ayuk is good, they're still going to find ways to get Deebo the ball in space. And he was so much better than everybody else in the league in terms of yards after catch above expected. Like, we have some numbers in Football Outsiders. I think there might be some on Next Gen stats too. But like, Deebo was like fantastic last year. If you put the ball in his hands, use electricity. I don't think they're going to stop doing that after paying him more money. Like, that's just not how I think that goes. How should Pitts go is a good question, because Pitts has fallen a lot in drafts this entire season. And if you are like a lot of the people in our chat, me as well, of course, been drafting since we've been drafting since the Super Bowl, really getting serious though after the NFL draft. Like, Kyle Pitts was at one point going sometimes falling to 38, 39, 40. Now you'll see him go as he goes here, 25 spot. I love Pitts. Pitts is my highest exposed tight end. I'm very proud of the amount of Pitts exposure. And I made my case earlier, like, he's young. We like to get breakout players who are on the cusp of something great. A rookie tight end doing what he did last year, 1,000 yards, even with the one touchdown. One touchdown is going to get better. 1,000 yards could get substantially better. And if he looks like he looked in that preseason game against the Jets, like, he's a terrifying guy to have to cover. So you can continue to talk me into taking him more. But I do think I have like 20% Pitts, I believe. I'll check it in a second. For me, it's hard to draft him at like 20 if that's where he gets. If he gets to Mark Andrews range, I think you might not want to go there too crazy. Mad Sox making a good point that I know Pete has made as well. Don't think you can go wrong with anybody in the top 2 rounds. It's crafting your teams and positions and hitting on later guys / stacks that will determine your success. I think there are some landmines, and I certainly, as I've talked about enough on streams, believe heavily that you want to draft that wide receiver upside. You definitely, I think, don't want to draft Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews like the guy in the 10 hole did. But that's still, a spot where I think you can get away with elite tight ends and multiple elite tight ends, but probably not those 2 elite tight ends. Cortland Sutton was the guy that I wanted to plant a flag for, but I looked at my exposure, and as you could see it again with this brick caddy, I do have, if it loads up, here we go, 15.6% exposure for Cortland Sutton. I think I have substantially more. I have 23% or 22.3% for T. Higgins, down to 22.1 now. So I have a lot more T. Higgins. So that's why, content-wise, I do think Pete and I having repeats in the flag plants was not the best. We try to keep it honest here, though, and those are all guys that Pete and I are drafting ungodly heavily. It makes me feel good, too, that he had guys like Rachaad White, because, as we know, I love the Rachaad Whites of the world now. DABK with a beautiful start. Oh, actually, I thought this guy was dark all along. So he's DABK, Jefferson, Javonte Williams, AJ Brown. I got a Jefferson Brown start this morning. I forget who was my third. With Pitts. I got Jefferson, Brown, and Pitts on Underdog and was like, yes, I'm very excited to get that team. And I think I reached a little for Pitts, though. Reached, I think, like 27 instead of 25. So a little savings for me. Either way, we're on the clock here. Maybe we get the Denver stack. Marquise Brown, I still don't mind. McLaurin, I don't know. I don't have enough Jerry Jeudy. And as you can see, my Ezekiel Elliott shares. The red is my exposure. The blue is the target exposure, according to Brick, and that's based on some of the experts he has pulling in ADPs. They have 5%. I've got a nary a share of Zeke in my Best Ball Mania exposure. So I apologize to our accountant Willis, who was beating the drum of Zeke quite a bit. Yeah, sorry, Dark. DABK. It makes sense, though, because we see BK Muchacho. It all comes together now when you start to connect the names. But Dark Muchacho is what I'm calling you if you start fucking sniping my picks again. That's what I'm going to say. The Marquise Brown DK versus UD discrepancy is massive. It's true of a lot of those guys, and it doesn't make sense on DraftKings. Of course, Underdog is a half-point PPR site, so you are rewarded more for touchdowns, rewarded more for yardage. DraftKings is a full-point PPR site, so Deontay Johnson being in the 50s for large portions of the offseason, I know he was holding out or semi-holding out, but him and Marquise Brown, like at least Brown, I think, it kind of makes sense why there'd be the PPR disparity, but you can get builds with like Brown and Deontay Johnson in the 50s, and I think those are both really solid on DraftKings. And part of why, too, like I would say, you're doing yourself a disservice. We love Underdog here. Again, use that promo code SPLASH. Please go fucking use it so I can go pay for baby formula, whatever other bullshit is coming down the pike. But I would say that from where I view things, like you should be drafted on DraftKings, too. Like, it's different drafts. You'll feel like you're building super teams. Ultimately, your super teams probably won't be as good as the other super teams on DraftKings that are going to have, like, somebody was DMing me yesterday. I think there's probably a team on DraftKings that has like Jefferson and Chase, or like Jefferson, Chase, and AJ Brown, or something fucking stupid like that. Because that's how people draft on DraftKings. So if you want to have like fun, not getting sniped on picks, like maybe getting sniped on your QBs because they don't fucking pay attention to correlation at all on DraftKings. Besides that, though, like draft on DraftKings, I think it's fun too. And it's a $5 Millie Maker on there as well. So a little bit cheaper if you're worried about that. Jordan saying elite QBs have such an edge. I very much agree with that. Elite QBs is a build that I enjoy deeply. I've taken a lot of double elite QB builds, and elite QBs, to be clear, I'm not saying necessarily Mahomes and Allen. I actually think it's not the best move to take a lot of Mahomes and Allen, especially together. You're giving up a lot of draft capital early on. But to me, to take a Lamar and like a Trey Lance is really exciting if you can get that somehow. Jalen Hurts and a Trey Lance, a Burrow Lance, like a lot easier to get Lance with these guys a couple months ago, and there's some uncertainty there. But I think elite QBs, elite tight ends. I did a lineup build, the one on the Spags solo streams on the Splash Play channel, where I went through the RotoViz roster construction explorer, and I would say check it out. I think it's like why I never draft running backs, and I went deep on it and showed the advantage that you get in the numbers in terms of like best ball data going back to 2015 for having one elite QB, a QB in the first 6 rounds, having one elite tight end, which is a tight end in the first 5 rounds, and I believe that strongly, and that's been how I've drafted this entire season. So I would support it deeply. Max Lensky saying, I'm addicted to seeing my name on the screen. Thank you, Max. I'm addicted to seeing your name on the screen, too, because you always are kind enough to give us money. Even though your name is so cool and you're a regular, we'd read your chats anyway, but we appreciate it a bunch. And honestly appreciate all you guys hanging out with me, especially if you're watching on Pete's channel and you're like, where the fuck is this sweet boy Pete who looks so adorable on the full screen of Ship Chasing the other night? No, just me here. No Pete showing up. And if Pete's showing up, he's not showing up for another 10 minutes. So we might actually have the draft done by that point. But we are back on the clock here. Did not get an elite tight end, which sucks. I still feel kind of thin at receiver, honestly. No great correlations right now. Well, yeah, it screams maybe a backdoor Drew Lock stack. No Pete here. Why not? Let's go crazy, guys. DK Metcalf stacked up with Drew Lock. Maybe I'll get some Lockett. Maybe I'll get some Fant. Who knows? Who knows? But we're live now for the Drew Lock stack, which I'm sure we've all desperately been waiting for. I also really need to get Russ. So that's something. Don't scoop me on Russ. I'm probably reaching for Russ just to make sure. Oh, though man, these are the questions that are sometimes tough that I always appreciate hearing Pete talk through, where like there isn't probably a lot of logic for somebody to take a Denver stack right now because I have Sutton, I have Judy. I can probably see if Russell Wilson falls to 2 picks. But boy, I've gotten scooped on so many running backs and rooms where people just draft willy-nilly, draft Russell Wilson because they were like, oh, he won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. That's the kind of casual drafts you get now. That I might reach for Russ here just so I don't lose my beautiful, pristine Denver stack. We'll see, though. We'll see how my heart goes. It's palpitating right now. The thump, the thump, the thump. You're stacking backup QBs. Yep, that's true. That's what we try to do here. Get the handcuff QB. That's the hot new trend for next year's best ball season. I saw BBM3 asking that. And weirdly, BBM3 got like a spat with Drew Dinkmeyer of some. I saw part of it. It seemed like they sorted it out quickly. But I really would say, though, watch that best ball breakfast with BBM3 yesterday. I really enjoyed Pete and him getting the reunion back together, getting the crew back together after they had to celebrate their big winnings a year ago. We think Russ is going to fall? Do we think Russ is going to fall? There's honestly not anybody I love in this range anyway. I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to risk it. If you risk it, you don't get a biscuit, I think is what the Bruce Arians phrase that was famously coined. With this run of QBs, I don't have the confidence that somebody else is going to go, oh God, like I feel like Strategery here maybe seems like a guy that would take a QB. Like somebody here would take a QB before Russ comes back to me, and I'm just not willing to risk it when I have the double stack. Like all the guys, like honestly, this is why I can't keep up on Twitter is like, I just don't have the wherewithal to just be tweeting out takes like left and right. Like, I just don't care. Like, please watch the streams. Like, I hope you guys enjoy the content that I do. Hope you enjoy the stuff that Pete's and I do, especially because I'm happy to keep riding those coattails until they fall off. But for you guys out there, like who enjoy all the Twitter spats and stuff, like you're probably not going to get it from my handle ever. Like I just don't have the wherewithal to get in the mix and just deal with like, oh, are you being petty to me for some reason? Like I think that was what the BBM3 Dinkmeyer Twitter beef was, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like I just don't even want to deal with it, you know? I just want to draft teams. Even when I draft teams and I post a screenshot, it's like you'll get people who just like need to fucking snark the lineup and whatever. And if it's out of fun, I don't care. Like obviously, if I'm drafting a shitty team, I probably know at this point. But yeah, like you know, if people are tough on Twitter, and they're all bots too. You know, that's a tough part too. People forget that Twitter is full of bots. There's been nothing in the news about that lately at all. I got the wrong draft. It started Diggs, Debo, Waddle, Robinson. I am not Team Waddle, but I do think that that's a very nice build if you are Team Waddle. Honestly, Diggs, Debo, and Robinson enough would be a nice start. Robinson's soaring up ADP wise, but then sometimes in rooms you'll get him at like the 55 range, which I don't get. Those guys are definitely ones like I'd be curious to see some studies, you know, from the people who actually care to like run Python code and whatever. I'd be curious to see some studies from people who are like, oh, like these variable ADP players, the guys who sometimes go 12 picks ahead of ADP, sometimes go 12 picks behind. Like what happens to them? Because like obviously the market data will land in the middle, but in terms of ADP, but like in terms of those teams, like if you get a guy that somebody else is paying a premium for and taking him at 37, you get him at 55. Like that feels like it'd be a drastically different team. So I don't know. Anybody out there who's smart, Bullock, I feel like you do data science, right? So tell me the info. Tell me this very esoteric question and give me the answer to it, please, while I'm on stream, ideally. Any updates on Waddle? He stinks. I think that's it's the main update. Oh, what am I? I don't know this. What's the background FF Doom? I will say for anybody out there who's subtweeting ship chasing, they can fucking come for me too, because I love that show. That is one of the shows that made me get obsessed with best ball. And part of the reason too. Oh, here we go. Oh, look who it is. Old Pete Overzet on his own channel.
DK Metcalf. Guess like he's back on his Seahawks bullshit.
Pete, it was a tough room. I had to reach for Russell Wilson, but the good news for you, we did draft a running back here in the first round with Austin Eckler.
Wow. Austin Eckler sliding to 9.
Yeah, it's been a weird draft, as you could tell by the guy taking Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews.
Dude, these drafts have been wild. The one I did with Bime for last night, Goddard went in the second round. I did my late night draft last night. I got Jamar Chase at 7, which looks like happened here as well. So it's funky season.
It is funky season. So update the people here. Of course, I covered for you. I told them all the lies as Pete was out literally burying a body in his backyard. It's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. But tell the people how much joy you're going through with your move and everything in your life.
Yeah, no, I was at my new place today getting the internet set up there, got that all squared away, came back, and then I've been packing up my office because I'm going to move my studio tomorrow. And I was like rustling around because I packed up a TV over here, and then the internet went out, and I was like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. I must have tousled some wires and ruined my internet. And then I'm like, no, I have everything in right. And then I get the message from Xfinity that there's an outage here. So I'm just, I'm frazzled, Spags. I'm frazzled. It's been quite a day.
Well, you're frazzled. We're on the clock. I think we took the running back early, so I don't think we take another. We don't have any logical correlations. So, actually, you know what? We have Hunter Renfrow. Wait, oh no, get Renfrow. No, we got Olave. Olave's ADP has come up a lot, and I don't love that.
Wait, why were you rushing to get Renfrow? Do you have Carr?
I have Debo.
You fucking slave to the correlations.
So Josh is saying, he's saying, Pete, tell Spags why Debo sucks. You like Debo, right? Your team Debo.
Yeah, I mean, if Debo sucks, I'm in for a rough year in best ball. I have like 17% of him. I will say I have gotten more spooked lately because of how well Ayuk is playing at camp. And I would rather, play the 49ers through Ayuk at this point because there's such a big gap in them. But I still think Debo's going to be fine. I just would, in a perfect world, I'd lower that exposure with everything I know now.
Okay. I think that's a reasonable take, though. I feel like the Ayuk thing, like we've seen Debo be a monster in a year where they probably weren't using him the best. So like, isn't there a world where Trey Lance boosts the offensive production enough where like Ayuk is good and better and all that, and Debo's also a monster? Because I think there is.
Yeah. No, I think there is too. I was just really aggressive on Debo earlier. I was like smashing him anywhere from like early second to every time he slid past that.
All right, so we have no QB correlations here that makes sense with Tom Brady or Dak. I think it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling time to get our bring back for Denver because I am a slave to correlation, Pete. You are right.
That looks good to me. Someone left a comment on one of my videos, and I couldn't tell if they were joking or not. They were like, it was on the brick draft, and they were like, the one thing I try to do in every draft is get a minimum of 8 AFC West players. And I read the rest of the comment, and I don't think they were doing a bit. And like, I kind of get it because we expect there to be so many shootouts there. All this to say, you have a nice AFC West build going on here.
We've talked about it that like I think if you're going to make a bet on one division being like the shootout division, I think it's the AFC West. And it could obviously randomness and all that. The defense is getting much worse. Like it could be the NFC North or something, but just based on talent of the QBs, like the West seems like the likely one.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the division I'm most excited about. I mean, the only thing you have going against it is in December, you're getting all those cold weather outdoor games in KC, in Denver. At least Chargers and Raiders have the dome. Some of those like what is it? The NFC South, where they're all warm weather dome games. Those tend to be pretty nice down the stretch. Like looking at those, Carolina, Tampa Bay games, those always interest me.
Yeah, I guess I would buy in more on the talent, rather than sweating the dome stuff. Like I know people are already doing the weather reports on January 1st for their week 17 correlations. And at that point, I think you're nickel and diming things too much. David Montgomery, Pete, goes right before the 100 spot here, 95 overall. At what point would you actually draft David Montgomery? Because you have been on some streams lately where you had a shot to get him his value and you still don't.
I told Brick, we almost took him last night at pick, I think it was 87 or 88. Same with Antonio Gibson. I'm a buyer of David Montgomery at pick 96 here.
Okay. I think that's fair. I mean, he honestly wasn't bad last year. Like he was not like great or anything, but he got a lot of touches and he's still, he's fairly young, right? Like he's not over 26, I don't think.
Well, the whole thing about the dead zone, right, when they're going in 5th and 6th round is that we're projecting them as starters and we're using projectable volume to prop that up. When you slide down into round 8 and 9, you're starting to get into committee back territory. We know Penny's going to be in a committee with Walker, Stevenson with Harris, Pierce with Burkhead, Sanders with Gainwell. So I almost feel like a lot of the downside risk is priced out once he's sliding down into the 8th, 9th round. And that's why I don't mind it there.
Okay. I think that's a fair point. For us, and this is something, Pete, that I was talking about, that like, if I'm taking an early running back, I'm not taking another one for, 8 or 9 rounds or so. At what point do you think we need to get back in the running back train? Because the board's starting to look pretty booger filled if we're going to use the color and gross body function thing.
Well, I think this looks like a sweet spot here. I mean, for these running backs, and also you could get you. Okay, sorry, I got confused with the Las Vegas thing. You still don't have anything with Carr.
No, still nothing with Carr. No tight end either.
I normally too will, in this spot where I don't have a tight end, I'll grab Knox. I still think he has kind of monster upside weeks 15 through 17 attached to Josh Allen. Or I kind of make the decision, I'm just going to go for a 3-punt build.
All right. I don't like doing 3, so I'll take Knox. I do think there's a cutoff point now. Like pretty much Knox, Ertz, I feel like is about the cutoff point for guys that feel like they haven't even a chance to be a tight end one, unless you're a big Cole Kmet guy. And there are a lot of big Cole Kmet guys out there.
Hang on, get Josh's chat up. I want to make some money off of him.
Can I get a DMont versus Debo fantasy points bet? What would it take, Pete?
Whatever you name your price, Josh. Even money, I'll take Debo versus David Montgomery, half point PPR scoring on underdog for the year.
Do you get an out for injury? Because I feel like that's the one out.
Yeah, we can do something like a minimum games played if you want, but I will happily take that bet.
Yeah, I don't see how it would be possible, especially Debo's not doing kick returns, Pete. David Montgomery, one of the lucky running backs, to be indoctrinated to the special teams by his new coach.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Gibson, did he finally go, or is he still on the board?
Let's see. He is still on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with Gibson at these prices. I think I took him at 111 in a draft the other day. I mean, that's where I'm perfectly okay with it here as your second running back.
Okay. Honestly, if we're going on pure upside, like for week 17, Pete, knowing what we know of Gibson, knowing what we know of, let's say, James Cook, do you really think Gibson has more week 17 upside than Cook?
I think there's different propositions. Gibson does go there, so it doesn't matter. I just, the range of outcomes is so much wider on what Cook could be. Cook could essentially have a redshirt year, or he could be this year, he could be a version of Alvin Kamara in that offense. So the outcomes are so wide. Whereas with Gibson, I kind of feel like it's going to be a bumpy road, but he's going to have a few big games because he's capable of ripping off big plays.
All right. Well, between Cook and Harris, who would you take?
James Cook.
Okay, there we go.
But I don't think Harris is bad there. We took him, I think, at pick 120 last night in the Bime 4 draft. And then Josh Norris was in the comments on our shift chasing stream last night, yelling at us to take David Harris, and we took Rachaad White instead on FFPC.
I think you made the right move. I think that's the one thing that Josh is not doing in the chat right now. He wants something far more valuable than money. Pete, do you feel like you're being flirted with?
Yeah, I just don't really like the tone. It has such a sensual overtone to it. Far more valuable than money.
As he's sitting there sipping a cognac and swirling it in a chair.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Josh, I'm not exchanging nip slips on this bet. Okay. I mean, I need the cold hard cash.
How do you think Lauren would feel about naming your child, as Paul's suggesting here for Josh, perhaps Julia Jones Overzet?
Yeah, Julia, that would be. I don't think Lauren would sign off on that. Her senora, when we studied abroad in Spain, was named Julia, and I think that would trigger her.
Oh, you just know too that she'd overpronounce it every time, I have to assume.
Exactly.
Julia. Every single vowel in that one is getting 10 seconds of airtime. Cook higher ADP than Singletary. I agree Singletary should probably be higher, but man, it's hard to not watch that highlight reel of Cook in the preseason and just go I want James Cook. I'm very impressed by James Cook. I've always liked him. I think he's a little bit better play on DraftKings just because of the PPR stuff. But I feel like, Pete, I don't mind taking either guy there, if they're there, and it really just depends on my mood on a given day.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I want to look up what my exposures are on those two, because I know early on I was taking a lot of Singletary And then I was taking a decent amount of Cook. I think I'm pretty even on those guys. I'm going to look it up right now.
Actually, I don't know what mine is either. And I'll be curious to see that too, because I definitely take a lot of those guys, really nice 0 RB backs, which Pete, I also went through the R guys, which I think lost a little bit of the flair from me reading your guys. And then
Really?
it's having the same guys. It looked like I made up your guys and you actually weren't doing the show anymore.
Yeah, actually, I don't know what Spags told you guys, but I said I'm not telling him my guys. I'm keeping those very close to the vest. So whatever he told you guys, he got completely made up.
Like, why does Pete love Naheem Hines and Khalil Herbert? I guess you do like these guys, though. I think a decent amount. But Rachaad White, though, is the giveaway, where that's been your guy that I have a little bit less Rachaad White, I think, than you.
So I just looked it up. I'm 15% Singletary and 11% Cook in Best Ball Mania.
Okay. I am 11% Singletary and 7.4%. I'm actually under on Cook right now, so I'm glad we got him.
Wow.
Yeah.
You actually hate him. You're fading Cook.
I got a lot of him on DraftKings, Pete. That's the one defense I have for myself. And I don't know what the exposures are on there.
I love how I have him on DraftKings as the new, like, I played him in cash. You know, when the guy goes off and he's not in your GPP line. I had him in my cash lineup.
All right, so we got a lot of running backs here. Feels like we can scoop our second guy. Walker, Henderson, Brian Robinson, Rachaad White, Hines, all of our favorites.
I mean, this is the sweet spot for running backs here.
I'm going to take Walker.
Yeah.
Just, in case I don't go Drew Lock.
Yeah, I think Henderson or Walker was the pick there. Because there's a chance. You're at 11-9, right? Yeah, there's a chance you might be able to catch Gainwell, Rashad coming back.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about QB because like Tua is gone very early. For some reason, QBs are flying off the board, so it feels like we're going to have to go a little bit more narrow at QB than I would normally.
Let me see your other wide receivers. Jameis in play.
Oh yeah, Jameis is in play. Yeah, and Jameis apparently wants to play this Friday, so he should be pretty close to good for the actual regular season.
Well, J Mike asking, did you have any context you want to add to our guys players? What was there anything controversial? What I forget even who I told.
No, it was more that. So I also had T Higgins. I also had Trey Lance on mine. So like we had a couple duplicates there. Though I did remember to flip the image for Trey Lance, so it looked like he's a completely different guy. But then I had to round up my list, I had Tyler Algier, of course, as the pivot to your Rachaad White. I had Alec Pierce as the pivot to your KJ Hamler. And I had Kyle Pitts over Kittle. But like, honestly, I like Kittle would be my guy, but I felt like I had to differentiate from you somewhere.
I love how you say pivot. You really wanted to say leverage off of your thing just for our guys. I got to make a big leverage play.
Hey, you had correlations. You had stacks in yours.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I would say, J Mike, about mine with Hamler's one of the few guys that have, really risen in ADP that I'm still continually drafting. I have some pretty big sticker shock on George Pickens. Some of those guys, even Dubs, I haven't been taking a lot, but Hamler still at 150 to me seems like a value. He's been back at practice looking good. So I'm still very hyped on Hamler.
Gainwell, I have enough Madison. I feel like this is a Gainwell spot unless a tight end is worth it. But yeah, I don't want to do Gainwell. Yeah, I'd rather take Dulcich late than a Kawhi now personally.
Yeah, and I just think at this point, with how much fear there is in the streets for Alberto, and I think rightfully so, I think you got to be getting him at discounts. I don't think you want to be taking Alberto at ADP right now while the ADP is still kind of in a free fall.
You can see my ADPs where I'm drafting these guys, and my 4% of Alberto is at 141.4. So I've got him at the dip, and if I get him more, it'll be cheaper than that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, any good ones on the ADP things wasn't working for me the other day, so I'm like actually curious to see where these are. Because like I think it was like flipped with like what the regular underdog ADPs are, but now this is where I'm drafting guys. No huge values. I guess Pacheco getting him at 191 was a nice value.
That is nice.
But not a lot of them. Not a lot of them.
Yeah, I need to pull up and see my average because I'm at 11% Pickens, and I don't think I've taken him once since he's moved up past like pick 150.
Yeah, I'm also down. Pickens, like I saw you went on like in 98, I think that was one of the drafts because I watched your ones with Brick and Bime for before the show and was actually talking it up too. Like I think the best ball breakfast the Bime for was really good because you were not doing it live, so you weren't having to have the room be ruined. But I just enjoyed you guys talking about that one because I realized like that lineup you guys had was part of what really radicalized me with the 0 RB stuff because I had Madison too and was like, wait a minute, like what connects the dots here? So I think that was a really instructive stream you did with Bime for, and I hope you guys do well again, if not as well as our teams that we've drafted on this show.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun to do that. You don't want to put too much pressure on yourself, a single bullet in a massive contest. But I liked that we were able to kind of replicate some of the things we did last year well in a smart, unforced way. So yeah, if you guys missed that, I put that up on the audio feed as well in a vacuum podcast. And yeah, we also just talked at the top kind of about the current landscape and some thoughts we have heading into these final couple weeks of drafts.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good show. And obviously, we love the Spike Week guys and Buy Him For and the work he's doing as well. So check him out and check out that stream. I think it was a really enjoyable watch for me. And two, like, I think your guys' breakdown of the lineup, like, there's a lot of things I think we've talked about in the show that just looking at your lineup and seeing what it is, where it's like all upside receivers, a lot of these guys that you drafted also ended up being like Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb. These guys are first rounders this year. Like a lot of things we talked about, I feel like perfectly aligned with how you guys did, even though you didn't win at all, which would have been the greatest story of all, I'm sure.
Yeah. Dylan, Pete, can I get Montgomery over Debo? And if I win, you have to do my work draft with me next year. What do I win? I mean, we got to actually have an other side of this bet before you want me to negative free roll you on this? I mean, come on, Dylan.
Neil, of course, one of our actual millionaires in the chat, who's doing a great job over at Stochastic, asking, how are we feeling about Pacheco in the 13th round? Saw Liam take him around there recently too. I feel like if you're dying to get exposure, Pete, I don't mind it, but we talked about it on the Monday show. I'd rather take a stab at McKinnon at this point and hope he gets the pass game work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did take him in that stream last night. We took him at pick 152, which I could stomach there because to me, I've always said, like, after, pick 150, it's just the fucking Wild West on there. I mean, you're in that, Tyrion Davis price range, whatever. But yeah, normally he's not slipping that far.
All right, so a good RB spot, decent way to get a tight end too, if we want to.
Sure, you don't want to boost your Khalil Herbert exposure up to 25%.
I'll take.
You're gonna Hancock?
No. Wait, I forgot that I'm so used to not having him. Oh fuck. Oh well, I guess it's the Kenny Golladay draft. Oh no. Well, I mean, there's no correlations to get with Golladay. Oh, actually, there's one. You get Alec Pierce late, maybe. No. There you go. Oh, Alec Pierce getting steamed up, perhaps by this stream.
Yeah. I don't. Have we even talked about Alec Pierce that much?
I have talked about Alec Pierce. You can't deny that.
But I love how you just once saying that you drafted him in like 19 straight puppy 3 drafts. You thought that was going to steam him up.
He was one of my guys. He was the 5th guy.
Okay, your guy. All right.
You saw the ADP I have on Pierce, Pete. I have a 177 ADP on him, so people can see that the discount I've gotten at a pretty good clip of exposure.
Talk through the Kenny Golladay decision other than being a panic selection, so you didn't take 2 Chargers backs.
So here's the thing, Pete. The way that I can justify it is that Kenny Golladay is a player that people are very down on. His ADP has fallen quite a bit. And if we could have gotten Alec Pierce, it would have made a lot of sense. But, now I'm perhaps less so.
So, yeah, did Jameis, I assume, went? Did we miss that one?
Yep, Jameis. Yeah. Jameis snuck by us.
But you now have opened up. I'd probably not risk it with Daniel Jones, honestly, at this point. But or you could. I still think this tight end tier is a little flat. I don't know.
I mean, we could wait a little, get Noah Fant, and then there's some logical candidates that come up.
Jesus.
Should I take Khalil Herbert now? This is. Oh wait, we could get our Vegas bring back. Zamir White. Done.
I would have sat on running back there, grab Daniel Jones, come back, grab that tight end in that sweet spot, and then circle back to running back. But it's just me.
I mean, in some respects, Pete, I think mentally I've already made the bet on Drew Lock. So that's where we are. You show up late, your internet's down, you're moving. It's the only time I can profit off of it by getting a Drew Lock share.
I mean, no, basically my internet actually never went out. I'm just trying to get creative with not having to draft BBM3 teams on my account with you.
I think the important thing is you're getting some shares of Drew Lock through me, and I'll happily look. Could you imagine if I had to cut you a check from my account because Drew Lock won us $2 million?
I would actually make you show up at my door like it one of the big clearinghouse checks or from those national contests, and film you bringing me my $1 million check.
And hopefully, like Drew Lock would get in with a bit, or at least his girlfriend would, and she'd come. We go door to door to you.
I no joke think if you won on your account with the team we drafted that you would be like a legit 5% flight risk, like all bits aside.
No, because like I care about the content part, and Pete, our business is tied together now, and it could get even more tied. So no, I wouldn't. I am a man of honor. I would never. That's not enough money to like run away, like never work again.
$2 million would take you a long way in Puerto Rico.
Not with the Pete, as you're gonna find out. Not with a baby, and not with not with a wife.
Oh, I know that they're the ones also getting left behind with me.
Like, look, Luca, you're adorable. Alex, it's been a great run. Unfortunately, there's only so many chances he gets. Flee to the Cayman Islands.
Spags doing solo streams off the grid. What if you got like a voice decoder thing and you were just had some mascot? You're like, draft with the winner of Best Ball Mania 3.
He went off the grid and now he only does streams for 7 hours a day. Never pin him down. But you know what, though, Pete? I wouldn't make people pay for a Best Ball Mania entry with me. They could just hop on a stream and do it for free, whether I win a voice decoder or not.
I think that'd be a good way to get back. We have other ambassadors of the game who are kind of nickel and diming their guests through. I think it would be a nice thing. What if you win BBM3 and you say, I'm going to do 150 streams, 150 guests, all on me, the champ? That'd be a good content bit.
God, could you imagine having to stream every draft you do and how minus EV that would be?
I think if I won Best Ball Mania 3, I would completely just transcend it. I'd just be levitating and be like, I don't care. I'm ready to punt off $3,500 or whatever.
Actually, Paul summed it up pretty well. Spags be doing TikTok selfies yelling at us about 0RB. I'm already doing that, Paul. So I guess I must be a millionaire and we just didn't realize it.
Wow.
More beach time, though. All right, we're back on the clock. We can get a bring back. Daniel Jones remains. We get a bring back for Paris Campbell.
Take fucking Daniel Jones, dude.
Okay.
It's
a 3 QB build, it feels like. Oh, wait, 2 week 9 buys. We can't do that. You can't.
Well, guess what? You just got your green light to draft Drew Lock.
Yeah. Got to take him to the 17th, otherwise we might get scooped.
Oh, man.
Josh is giving you the bet here. Pete, the bet, I'll get a Pete Overzet tattoo if I lose, but when I win, I get to come on a Pete-sponsored ship-chasing FFPC main event.
Here's where you're wrong, Josh. You just put the value for me of you getting a tattoo. Actually, okay, is Josh getting a tattoo of me worth $1,800?
No, because I feel like he would do it for free.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is, and also like, how am I going to be depicted? Is it going to be a caricature version? Do I get to sign off on the artwork before it's permanently imprinted on your body? There's lots of logistics we'd have to think through with this, Josh.
Yeah, come with a stronger pitch than that. Phila saying top 10 worst drafts I've seen. Pete, I know there's nothing more.
Spags, you're on the clock.
I know. I got to somebody scoop Noah Fant, which kind of chafes me a little here, but. Again, I'm not going to.
I told you that Zamir White detour was going to hurt you. What? Come on.
Not worth the risk, Pete.
What do you mean worth the risk? No one's taking fucking Drew Lock.
He's getting drafted more and more each day.
By who?
By Drew Lock aficionados like myself.
God, this
is r/Drew Lock on Reddit. If Zach Wilson's going, there was a risk. There was a risk profile there. I can't let it happen.
Well, at least I know you're not a flight risk anymore if you're drafting teams like this.
I mean, look, I have a lot of good teams. I've drafted some really nice teams over the last few days. I think I get to relax a little, just get my one shitty fucking Austin Eckler team out of the way. This isn't a bad team.
I mean,
it's just like, it's ridiculous how like you could draft any team, and if it doesn't have 5 running backs, somebody's gonna be in the stream being like, oh, this team can't, like the Denny Carter bit. I never realized was so true until this year.
Spags, no one watching this and hanging out in the comments is worried about having thin running backs. We're all offended by not prioritizing tight end when there was that pocket of the draft and then grabbing Drew Lock that early. That's what we're all upset about.
Well, no, the Phil guy was like saying that before for the Drew Lock detour. The Drew Lock detour made him think this is for content. And sure, certainly I like to enhance my content with the occasional draft pick in the 16th round, Pete. But I believe in this team, and I believe we got a nice hero RB build.
Yeah. I just want you to know if Xfinity didn't come through in the clutch, you would have handcuffed Austin Eckler with Isaiah Spiller.
I absolutely would have. I'm so used to like not having a running back in the first round. I'm like, oh, Isaiah Spiller's falling. Like, this is a great value. So
Yeah.
it's a mistake. I can admit that. Also, honestly, okay, if Isaiah Likely's going in the 15th, I think Drew Lock could go in the 16th.
Look at that string of wide receivers for the one hole. That's my nightmare.
Yeah. Kyle Phillips and Khalil Shakir.
Zay Jones, AJ Green, Kyle Phillips, and Khalil Shakir. I have a min one rule of that bucket of wide receivers on my teams.
Who are his other guys? So he's got, he reached for Dubs, got him nice and early.
Oh, no.
DeAndre Hopkins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill is his wide receiver one. Got Kyle Pitts, though.
I mean, once you have Kyle Pitts, you do win the draft. So all is forgiven, Andrew.
It's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts ahead of ADP and going to go even higher over the next few weeks.
He's gonna be a late second ADP. I mean, every draft I've been in since that preseason game, he's gone ahead of ADP.
I guess Mo Alley Cox for an Indianapolis bring back.
I mean, I'd rather do you have 2 stacks with Wilson already?
No, I only have I have the Judy and Sutton.
Oh, okay. You're good. Then I was going to say maybe Dulcich, but yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Dulcich will still be there, I think, at the 18th. Somebody in the chat was talking up Albert O versus Dulcich, and like every sign seems to be like, including the beat reporter that I think you'd mentioned on one of the shows, like for the Broncos, every sign seems to be that they hate Albert O for reasons completely unclear.
Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett does not like Albert O,
which is baffling. I don't like Albert O's been perfectly fine, but I don't know. I guess there must be something we're missing for the football head guys and guys having to make their stamp on their teams just so they could show like that they're the alpha male.
I think it's more of that. I do really think there's an ego thing of being like, I want to be the guy who handpicked this guy. If I feel like I'm inherited a player that I'm not as excited about, they want to make sure they get the credit for that.
So a guy, Pete, that we could stack up with Daniel Jones here because Colin Johnson got hurt, and this guy definitely is not drafted at all. Sterling Shepard. I guess he's drafted by me once. 0.8% Sterling Shepard. I think we could take him here. He's back in practice. I feel like he's probably
the only other thing would be Bellinger and do a 3 tight end build.
Oh, you know what? That makes sense. I like that. Because like logic would say we would take Dulcich, so getting Bellinger is a different approach.
I think with I don't know if I feel comfortable with just Knox and Cox, as wonderful as that sounds rolling off the tongue.
Not a bad team. All right, so we got Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock. So we got to.
I love how you say not a bad team right before you go to review it. Just pump yourself up.
Austin Eckler, of course, a hero running back build. James Cook got him at a nice value. Kenneth Walker, a huge value. Kenneth Gainwell, a huge value. Zamir White, not a value, but he's pretty valuable to me. Deebo Samuel, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Kenny Galladay closes out at receiver. Dawson Knox, Mo Alley Cox, and Daniel Bellinger. Can't say this one isn't unique, Pete. 3-5-7-3.
You know what I'll say, Spags? Don't worry about labeling this one splash play.
I'm whatever one that I win the $1 million with Pete, I'm going to go and check the timestamps to make sure in case I missed the label somewhere. So, don't worry about it. I got you either way.
That was my one with Eric last year. Like, I'm not a big scoreboard watcher or lineup watcher. And it wasn't until we had advanced from week 15 to 16. And I believe Bime4 was like, I'm down to 1 bullet or something. And then I went and looked at mine and saw that one had advanced. I was like, no, actually you have another one. This team we drafted had advanced. So I am going to go around to everyone that I drafted teams with, and I will be hawking screenshots and making sure that they're not trying to run off to Puerto Rico with my lineup.
For Bime4, that must be like, like finding out you're pregnant. It's like, like what a great moment. We got to line up alive. Who knew?
Yeah, dude, I think we have the same amount of BBMs done right now.
I noticed we were close on one of your streams, and I didn't know if you'd moved ahead because I did one today.
122. Oh, you just beat me. 123. I'm at 122.
Yeah. Okay, so there. So this draft you did it on this stream would have been the difference maker between us.
Yeah. Actually, this is what I want. I want you to label this, but I only want 25% of it because I only drafted half of it.
Okay.
Pete gets 25% only. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Boy, this wide receiver group, a lot of week 9 buys in this wide receiver group. I'll tell you what.
That joke could end up being one of the most expensive bits of my life if this team. I mean, I will rue the day I made that joke.
Well, Pete, the first time we're done in an hour flat in a while. So you got that going for you. I'll stop my screen here. Anything you want to say to the people, Pete, because you missed the news. We didn't do the news section today because I was fucking really overwhelmed with having to talk to open the show. Anything you want to bring to the people here on the way out?
Yeah, I just want to apologize for leaving you guys with Spags by
on your own
yourself.
channel. You're only hurting yourself.
I almost fired off a tweet. I was too tilted, but I almost fired off a tweet saying if I get canceled for this, poorly informed decision to let Spags go live solo on my channel, it's been real, guys. So, did you do anything bonk worthy while I was gone?
No, I was on my best behavior. I was honestly overwhelmed because, like I was saying in the beginning, like even though StreamYard's exactly the same for you and me, like you having a different brand setup just threw me for a loop entirely. Where I'm like, where's the intro? Like, what's going on here? I had to log in. I had to get Pete's like a login code, his 2-factor authorization to get on StreamYard. So I was like flustered, and I think stammering and fucking sputtering all over the place even more than usual.
Yes, sorry for being late. I am happy to have my internet back tonight, doing randomizer draft with Karain. We're doing a little later so we can go back to back randomizer into our ship chasing draft. And then we're drafting a main event team with Davis Maddock tonight, which should be wild. He is already threatening to make us draft more running backs than we're used to drafting in those contests. So if you want to come watch the three of us fight and bicker with Davis Maddock tonight, you can tune in for that doubleheader.
Yeah, if you're not watching every bit of best ball content, I feel like you guys have been getting a shitload of views. It's hard to compete with the fantasy flock, but a lot of people watching those shows, and I feel like very well deserved for you guys.
No one can compete with the fantasy flock. We are all playing for second place. But yeah, no, people have been really enjoying the main event streams. They've been a very fun time.
Yeah, a lot of great best ball content out there. So check out some of the stuff that Pete's doing. Of course, come back tomorrow to hang out with me solo, where I'll be doing 2 drafts in a row, popping a few beers, having a good time on here, and also talking about the wide receivers I think you should be drafting. And there might be some overlay between what we did today and what we're going to do tomorrow. But tune in and pretend like it's all new to you. Follow at Peter Overzet, follow at Chris Spags, follow at Splash Play Pod, and of course, hit the like button before you go. Subscribe to the channel and go subscribe to the Splash Play channel as well, because that is where the show will be exclusively starting with the NFL Week 1. We appreciate all you guys hanging out. We'll catch you guys again soon. Bye.